You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the April 7th, 2025 regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Today's meeting begins with a public hearing of objections to Amendment Z22-11 to the zoning bylaw. Council will later move to give this bylaw its second and third readings. Under Planning and Community Development, Councillors Harland and Heenan will move to appoint 2 new members to the Planning Advisory Committee for a 2-year term. Councillors Harland and Heenan will also move that Council approves the Heritage Officer Service Agreement with the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission to oversee the handling of heritage permits and Heritage Board processes, and to appoint Senior Planner Alexander Gopin as the Heritage Inspector. Under Finance and Administration, Deputy Mayor Akaji will move to award community assistance grants to 7 organizations. Deputy Mayor Akaji will also move that Council adopts the Town of St. Andrews 5-year capital investment plan for the Canada Community Building Fund. Additionally, Deputy Mayor Akaji will open a discussion on Council composition. Under Public Works and Public Safety, Councillors Bennett and Neal will move to grant leave for the third and final reading to Bylaw 25-01, regulating vehicular traffic, and that the bylaw takes effect on May 1st. Councillors Bennett and Neal will also move that Council sends a letter to the Federal Minister of Public Safety, emphasizing the need of municipalities to be more actively involved in negotiations of the National Police Federation as it relates to the provisions of RCMP services. Further to this, they will move that Council sets community priorities for the RCMP. Finally, under Recreation and Environment, Councillors Gumichel and Blanchard will move that Council approves the Memorandum of Understanding for the development of a food forest for the St. Andrews and Area Open Door Program. Now let's join Council at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Council Chambers in St. Andrews.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the 250407 Public Hearing of Objections meeting to Amendment Z22-11, the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for the town of St. Andrews. Here we are Monday, April 7th, 2025 at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Chambers. This meeting will be streaming through Zoom and Facebook as well. If anyone does catch this and didn't have an opportunity to write in support or opposing this particular zoning application, then you can, even after, at any time, always write to mayor and council and staff. So the email is pnopper@townofstanders.ca. Let's get into the recording of attendance. I know Councillor Blanchard is online. We're missing, looks like Deputy Mayor Akaji is coming in right now. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Beskoto-Mogadi people. For this first meeting, it is just the hearing of objections. I'll be looking for approval of the agenda. I've got Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Bennett. Any comments on the agenda or any changes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone. And is there any disclosure of conflicts of interest? Seeing none, we'll get right into it. Once again, this is the hearing of objections for Amendment Z22-11 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01, and it is a public hearing of objections, PCD 250102. And for those of you that the description doesn't tell you a lot, it is specifically dealing with fences and some amendments to fencing that came from our PAC actually to minimize the number of variances that they were seeing. So with that being said, would anyone in the audience wish to speak in regards to this particular hearing of objections this evening? I'll do another call for the floor. Anyone like to speak regarding this hearing of objections to Z22-11? All right. Is there anyone online, Mr. Nopper, that would like to speak regarding this hearing of objections?
Your Worship, I did receive an email from the gentleman that wanted to speak. He's having trouble actually accessing the Zoom link. I'm not sure what's going on with it. It's the standard link that I have. But I do note that he did submit a letter to council in regards to concerns with the section that is being amended in regards to the wood or facsimile type fences. Council, you received that by email this afternoon.
Yes, and I did get that. I hope all members of council had an opportunity, and it was more about the materials that are used and how it's a little restricting on some recent, I guess you could say, fencing that they've done to their place. On that note, would that be considered grandfathered in of this
So through your worship and speaking with the planners, the permit process that they're working through right now is not approved. So their fence would be subject to any changes that council makes within the amendment as is right now.
Okay, maybe we'll have a little discussion on that. It is in the regular meeting. There is second and third reading, I believe, in the actual agenda.
Correct.
So maybe we'll talk about that more at length and not make this about one specific example, so we will go back to it. And yeah, it's unfortunate that the person that emailed is unable to get online, that's for sure. So no one online, is that correct, Mr. Knopper?
That's correct.
Okay, and again, that email did go around this afternoon, so I appreciate you cascading that quickly. So if there's no one online and no one wished to speak in the audience, I will be looking at 6:38 p.m. to have a motion to adjourn the first meeting. I've got Councillor Bennett, seconded by Councillor Heenan. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, Council. All right, everyone, welcome to the 250407 regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. We are getting underway at 6:50 p.m., slightly delayed as we're having some technical difficulty. It is hurting our live stream tonight, is my understanding, but we will make sure to post this. If anyone has any concerns about anything related to the agenda, we'll read it as always. Just email pnopper@townofstanders.ca. But again, we will post this, and the Zoom link is working for this one, though. Is that correct? Okay, good. So it's just streamed through Facebook seems to be the technical difficulty tonight, so we apologize for that. Seems like it's on?
So, Your Worship, it's showing on, but it's not showing. It's actually completing on my computer. So it might be showing something, but it's not live on.
Councillor Neal can see it online, can you?
Okay.
So it is. We might be live. Okay. So I want to note that all members of council are in attendance, as Councillor Blanchard is joining us virtually this evening. And again, want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Beskotomogati people. There is a number of items on the agenda tonight. I'll be looking for a mover, I guess, first to get it on the floor. I've got Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Heenan. Any changes? I'll just note that we will be going to closed session this evening. And we'll be, Mr. Knopper will read which one it is under the Local Governance Act, but it is related to an employee issue. So we got a mover and a seconder. Any other changes? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. I can see Councillor. He's really small, but I can see the hand from here. So that is everybody. And any conflict of interest this evening? Okay, seeing none at this time. Let's go right ahead right now. There's no presentation, so let's do the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Is there any, I'll do them the speed way that I do. Is there any changes to any of them, though, just to get me to slow down? I'm seeing none, so let's go through them very fast. The first one are the minutes of the 25/02/24 special council meeting on Monday, February 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Could I have a mover for those minutes? I've got Councillor Heenan, seconded by Councillor Harlan. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. The minutes have been carried. The next minutes are the 25/03/03 regular council meeting of Monday, March 3rd, 2025, 6:30 p.m. Mover once again. I've got Councillor Neal, Deputy Mayor Akaji is seconding. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Thank you, Council. Two more sets. The next are the minutes of the 25/03/17 public hearing of objections to Amendment Z 22-09, Monday, March 17th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. Once again, you know the routine. A mover, please. Councillor, we'll give that one to Hurdle, seconded by Councillor Harlan. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. I'll go slow to give the next one to Councillor Blanchard online. It's the minutes of the 25/03.
Councillor Blanchard's abstaining from this next set of minutes.
Oh, maybe next time, Councillor Blanchard. The minutes of the 25/03/17 regular council meeting, Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 6:45 p.m. Councillor Ware? Yes. Do you want me just to get a seconder on that one, and then we'll open it up? Councillor, I think Bennett, I see the hand over there. Okay, over to you, Councillor Ware. Okay, I think the issue on that is there is no formal in the procedural bylaw way of abstaining, and when you abstain, it's a yes. Is that correct, Mr. Knopper?
It is a yes vote. So the concern here, Your Worship, comes down to those that abstain from minutes because they weren't here. It's still a yes vote, but they're abstaining because they weren't here. If those that are here in council, the procedure is it's a yes, no, or an abstain, but your abstain is a yes vote. So we may need to talk about this further as a policy process on how you want to register abstaining votes through the policy.
I think we should
I
do
saw a
that.
whole number through here where people abstained from voting in these 4 sets of minutes.
And I'm happy to remark them as abstained, but noting for the future council, we should look at the procedural bylaw as it pertains to abstaining and how you want that registered in the minutes.
All right, so on that note, you prefer to have that in as abstain?
Well, everybody else is, I don't think I should single them.
No, I'd agree with you on that. Maybe we should review the procedural bylaw on that. Council, are you okay if we make an amendment just to put that Councilor Ware abstain from that particular vote? And then we revisit the issue? Does anyone have any, could I have a mover to make that amendment? I've got Councilor Bennett, seconded by Councilor Heenan. Any discussions on changing that to being that Councilor Ware abstain from that particular motion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Okay, that change has been made, and now we're back to the original question. All in favor of approving the minutes now, please signify by saying aye. That has been dealt with. Thank you very much, Council. That will wrap up the minutes. We are jumping into communications. I just want to note that Council received within the staff reports a very detailed, actually, monthly update from Explore St. Andrews. I'm not going to go through it in the essence of time, but I believe because it's part of a council package, this is now a public document. Is that correct? So if anybody that would like to see the monthly update to council on Explore St. Andrews, you can now stop by Town Hall, and I'm sure staff would be happy to print off a copy of those so you can see it for anyone that, whether whether your business is one that collects the levy or you're just a member of the public that would like to see it, they are public record for anyone to see.
And
So,
Your Worship, please note you are now live to Facebook.
thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead to the next update, and I'll keep it brief, but I just wanted to recognize that April 7th.
Your Worship, hold on a second.
Yep. Oh, sorry.
Excuse me, Your Worship. Just a reference to the Explore St. Andrews monthly report. I was wondering if I could ask a question here. This report is very inclusive and very detailed, and I certainly appreciate the effort that went into it. However, last year, early in the year, we had a review of the previous year's Explore St. Andrews activities and their budget and everything, and we haven't seen that this year. And all of a sudden, we start seeing these monthly reports from Explore St. Andrews. Is there going to be a time when we see last year's report from Explore St. Andrews?
Yes, Mr. Knopper can answer that for us.
Through you, Your Worship, Explore St. Andrews presented during the 2025 budget proceedings where they did provide you background reports on their previous year as well as their budgeted year and budget, which was approved by council at that time. Council did request after that monthly reports do come forward similar to staff reports to see what's going on a monthly basis, but if council wants another copy of their last year's report and their this year's goals, I'm more than happy to ship that out. I still have that on record.
So is that October, November timing?
October.
Is it
Yep.
October? Okay. Thank you very much. Does that suffice, Councilor Bennett?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Paul. I would like to see a complete report. When Explore St. Andrews presented that to us, there was a number of things that were missing, and they said it was because it wasn't the end of the year yet. So we didn't get a complete history of what happened last year, and I would like to see that. Thank you.
So I'm sure, as those are collected tax dollars, if we want them to come back in to make a presentation, I think it's a reasonable request from council. I'm just looking for council consensus if you'd like an updated presentation from Explore St. Andrews on their activities for 2025. Just a quick show of hands if you, sorry, but, so you want to look back at 2024 as the final and not 2025?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2024, sorry about that, thanks for the correction. Quick show, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just think if we're going to have a discussion, I think it would be helpful to both look at 2024, but also to have an opportunity to further review the goals and objectives of 2025. So if we're going to have a discussion with them or a presentation, I'd like a fulsome presentation that includes both last year and the focus for this year.
I think everyone on council would probably be aligned to that, I would say. Okay, quick. Okay, quick show of hands if you would like the presentation on 2024, 2020. I'm seeing that. So we'll reach out to Explore St. Andrews and say that we'd like an updated presentation and just to talk about the upcoming year. Thank you very much, Councillor Bennett, for bringing that up. I didn't mean to expedite past it. So I will jump into the NB Organ and Tissue Program request. One quick sec here. All right, so April 7th, which is today, is Green Shirt Day and National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness. And it also, they have the week, which is from April 20th to 26th. Just a couple quick things I want to highlight out of the information they sent us is that over 4,100 Canadians need an organ and tissue transplant. And unfortunately, every year over 250 patients die waiting in Canada. And another interesting stat is over 90% of Canadians support organ and tissue donation, yet fewer than 32% have registered their decision to donate. So just a reminder out there of the importance of actually not just supporting something, but take action when you're able to. So what they're looking for is for us to light up Town Hall, and I did talk to Mr. Knopper before the meeting, and we thought that it would be fitting to do so during their actual week, which again would be the April 20th to 26th. Just a quick consensus if everyone is aligned to lighting Town Hall up in green for that particular awareness cause. Okay, seeing no concerns, so Mr. Knopper, we will go ahead with that. Thank you, everybody. And we're jumping ahead to staff reports. Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Worship. Council, finally we are seeing a return to spring after Sheila's Brush made an appearance in late March. We are fully swinging into warmer weather planning as capital projects begin to take shape. Public spaces will be cleaned up as we prepare for another busy year. Under Council, after months of consultation and discussion, the vehicular bylaw is now before you for third and final reading. In the end, the primary changes are reduced speed limits to 40 kilometers an hour from Reed Avenue to the Point, an additional couple of stop signs, and an update to deal with the proliferation of campers that we have seen over the last couple of summers in public spaces. Excuse me again. Another item on the agenda tonight is to consider the composition of council. Currently, the town of St. Andrews has 9 councillors plus the mayor. While this was initially recommended during local governance reform in 2023, it also came with a caveat that we should review it before the next general election. For comparison's sakes, Moncton and St. John have only 10 councillors, while Quispam-Sis, with 19,000 residents approximately, only has 7 councillors. However, Grand Manan, with a slightly smaller population, also has 9. One of the ways to think about this is a ratio of population served per council member, and in St. Andrews, ours currently runs around 275 to 350, while in other areas, it is more than 600. There will be financial savings if council pursues this option. It would make our meetings a little tighter. However, it is council's decision on how you'd like to proceed. Staff brought a proposal to reduce the number of councillors in Shamcook Ward to 1 and the number of councillors in the St. Andrews Ward to 4. Thank you. Bringing the population ratio to between 355 to 550. There has been a precedent in doing this from the past when prior to 2004, there were 9 councillors and it was reduced to 6. During the meeting last month, staff asked council to table the application for the Canada Community Building Fund to correct an issue around funding the wharf project. We now have taken out the wharf portion and added in projects at the Arena and Bayside Community Hall to offset. The funds are provided annually, and in return, staff need to submit year-end reports showing the use of these funds. Our current recommendations can be amended in the future, but to receive the current funds, we need to submit the capital investment plan. Over the last few weeks, there has been a discussion on creating parking on both King Street and on Water Street by the trailhead. Staff are pushing this discussion another couple of weeks as we work to get better estimates on the projects and alternatives. Both are planned to be funded out of Tourism Development Fund, which is also currently paying the washroom updates at Town Hall. I expect we'll need to choose one parking project over another in 2025. Our 3 councillors from Bayside and Shamcook, plus the mayor and staff, had an opportunity to meet with representatives from the Department of Transportation Infrastructure around concerns about the state of the secondary roads, including concerns over vegetation clearing and crumbling roads and shoulders. They also spoke to capital projects and normal maintenance routines. To address immediate and ongoing concerns, staff will review the roads with the councillors and a motion or letter to the minister to prioritize the issues is recommended. Staff have received the first draft of the zoning bylaw from the planners at the Service Commission. We will be forwarding this to council shortly, actually we did over the weekend, for your initial review, and then we will have a workshop with them to go over it more thoroughly. This is tentatively set for April 28th. After that, there will be public presentations, more consultation, and discussion with the citizens as we work to pass this and the municipal plan in the fall. Administration. Concerning the wharf project, staff continues to work towards the final design and being able to put the tender out in the late spring. We need to define an offsetting project, which we're able to do and have found a partner to share the cost with us. The next step would be for council to review the near final drawings, and then it will be issued for tender. Once the tender is open in late June, we will know if we still have the proper budget to proceed. The town is also continuing to explore options of putting in an apartment behind the New Brunswick Community College. In partnership with the Regional Development Corporation and the Housing Hub, we are looking at all options to build affordable housing for students, workers, and those with limited income. Although the lot has its challenges related to improper fill to put a building on, we still consider this a good option to develop for its walkability and access to the college and daycare. In the last week of March, Megan Carey of RSC Strategies was down to do in-person consultation regarding the Recreation Master Plan. In addition to 2 public consultation sessions, they also met with several stakeholder groups and went to the schools to talk with the youth. We appreciate everyone who took the opportunity to provide feedback, including completing the community survey that was issued over the winter. We want to provide the public with an update with the various washrooms in town. The refurbished and expanded facilities at Town Hall will be operational by the 3rd week of April. The arena washrooms have been completed after the waterline break and just in time for a couple of tournaments to end the season. The new washrooms at the trail and the ones at Centennial Park will not be open until the 1st week of May, as we need to wait for consistent above freezing temperatures. Please be advised that there are 3 full-time positions for employment available on the town website: an arena and parks attendant and 2 positions in a recreation department focusing on the youth center. These have been advertised for a couple of weeks, so anyone interested should quickly go to the website for further instruction on how to apply, or call Town Hall for further guidance. The Mayor and I represented the town of St. Andrews at Advocacy Days held in Fredericton in late March. We were able to hear from the Premier, Minister of Local Government, and the Health Minister, as well as most department officials from other portfolios. A couple of key takeaways are, in addition to fiscal reform, the government is also committed to property tax and assessment reform. They are forming another working committee on the latter, but there's no commitment on the timeline. Some of the money being used to manage the tariff concerns will be given to municipalities as well, but details will not come until May. Horizon Health and Vitalité are proceeding with opening more collaborative clinics across the province. The Premier is committed to this locally, both St. Stephen and Blacks Harbour were identified as priority locations. Services. The fire department had an open house on April the 5th to display the new ladder truck, as well as have a push-in ceremony to bring it into use. Although we've had it for several weeks, the department has been training on it in preparation for putting the truck into active service. We have seen how this is a much-needed apparatus for the area, primarily for the safety of our volunteer and staff firefighters, but also to more efficiently fight chimney, roof, and multi-story incidents. Please be advised that the large brush collection program is beginning on April 25th, and that you will need to call Town Hall to make arrangements for pickup. Leaf bag sales have also started. Bags can continue to be purchased at Town Hall, but after our current supply runs out, we are unable to bring in any more. However, other local retailers carry these and are similarly priced. A reminder that the collection of leaf bags is more sporadic. So leave them at the end of your driveway and they will eventually be picked up within a day or two. Please note this only applies to the residents of the original town who are still serviced by our local Public Works Department. Please also note that on April 25th, Town Hall will be closed as we undergo electrical upgrades on our main panel. We are looking at potential ways to keep the office open or relocate to the arena. The winter parking ban is now over, and we thank residents who complied. We offered warning tickets the first time, and it was usually enough for people to make alternative arrangements. In conclusion, over the next few months, besides all the spring activities, there will be lots going on with your council. Staff will work hard to keep everyone informed about any sessions and available documents that affect you, our citizens. Please keep engaged as these processes, as it is truly an exercise to allow residents to chart the future of your community. Respectfully submitted, Chris Spear, Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any member of council have any questions related to the staff report or financial report that's enclosed in the package? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion to accept the staff reports as presented in this? I've got Councillor Heaton and seconded by Councillor. I'm going to give it to Blanchard. I've been waiting for it and I caught it. Okay, all in favor of accepting the staff reports, please signify by saying aye. That's everyone. That has been completed. That will wrap up that. We're now into the introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws and motions. The first one will go to Planning and Community Development, and it is Councillor Harland.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. This is reference number PCD 250102. And the subject is Amendment Z22-11 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for the second and third readings. The background is as follows. It has been identified by the planners of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission and town staff that there needs to be text amendment changes to the zoning bylaw, specifically related to fencing. Challenges with this section of the bylaw have been highlighted, especially through the Planning Advisory Committee processes. The bylaw processes to date are as follows. There was a public hearing of objections February 18th, 2025. Obtained views of the PAC February 19th, 2025. First reading March 3rd, 2025. Public hearing of objections April 7th, today, 2025. Second reading and third and final reading. If council is satisfied with the feedback received on this amendment and are in agreement with the amendment as written, council can proceed with the second and third readings. So the first motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for the second reading to Amendment Z22-11 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for the Town of St. Andrews. And I so move.
Thank you. Seconder. Okay, Councillor Neal, open for discussion. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, and perhaps I think we got Xander on the line. Just regarding the correspondence we had earlier today, I wonder if it would be possible for applicants to variances would be able to access information on ways to reduce their cost when it came to finding additional sources to build the fence, and if the Southwest the Service Commission would be able to respond in that way to help connect people to lower cost options.
Mr. Gopin, I can see on the line
about
there.
cost, but it didn't quite come through.
Sorry, go ahead again,
Can't quite hear
Xander. Or Councillor Hurdle. Can you say your question again?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just, because we had correspondence earlier today regarding that the types of materials that the changes would require people to use might be cost prohibitive. If there's information or services available at the Planning Commission that might be able to direct people to lower cost options or ways to help relieve the burden of the expense.
Certainly, we do that with materials for buildings. If people are trying to find different options, but I do think it is probably true that these materials will be more expensive than something like chain link. And initially, this the Z2211 was drafted so that this requirement would only be in the historic business district, but through PAC's feedback at the last council meeting, this was amended to include all residential properties in the town plat. So It was initially conceived of as the larger burden would be placed on properties in the historic business district, which already have additional requirements through the secondary plan. We will certainly work with applicants to help, answer questions about whether materials will meet the requirements. But there are, I think, most people assume that chain link is the cheapest option, and that's something that would be not possible with the way the amendment has changed the bylaw amendment.
It's really hard to hear.
We know there's struggles with technical issues right now, so.
Yeah, so the gist of this, and I think why the letter we received today, and maybe with your question, is it seems like the materials that are listed were traditionally, again, for the historic business district, but now we're expanding that to the entire town plat. And I think we'd all agree that wood, stone, brick, and the iron are ideal, but what I see in the community when I drive around is a lot of those steel poles that are put in the ground, and then you've got almost what I call the wire deer fencing that people, and the reason they're doing that is because they don't necessarily want a fence, they're doing it to protect their yard from damage to deer, and it's a lot cheaper, and it's something you can do on your own versus hire a professional company to put in the other one. So I think when I drive around town, and I did today after I got that letter because I wanted to see exactly what they had. Over to you on what your interpretation is, but it's still transparent. You can still see through it. You can still see their yard. It's just something that's affordable. So I think that's the whole basis of what that letter was today. And I see a lot more people doing that than paying for the professional fences. And I'm not saying that someone can't put up their own wood fence and stuff like that, but the average person can't. And I think that's fundamentally what we heard today. Back to you, Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Worship. I remember we brought this up before, and I have a memory of it that's not applying to deer fencing. Am I correct in that? It doesn't. Okay, so that would still. It does apply. Okay.
From my interpretation, though, of what's happening right now with this applicant is right now they need permission to leave that fencing up.
Through you, your worship, right now they're going through a PAC variance on setbacks. The concern now is that they currently have the fencing up, and they were working through a process with neighbors and trying to find a solution within it. The situation is, because they don't have development approval on the type of fence they are using, they are subject to whatever change council makes in the current amendment.
So I think before, if you're using deer fencing to wrap it around a particular area, but this is almost like a fence around the yard is the way that's set up. So it's kind of something that someone could interpret to say, hey, I'm covering my garden, or no, I'm covering my whole front and side yard. Because it does wrap from the front to the side, but council, over to you. It's one of those ones that's tough, but the reality is we've reached out for years to the province of New Brunswick, and the only resource we have is a nuisance hunt, and all that has done is really keep the population more in check than it has decreasing it. So people are frustrated. They're trying to protect their property, and they're trying to do it in a way that is affordable. And again, I understand the other side of it, council. You've got to weigh out that certain types of fencing, if not done properly, can definitely alter the look and feel of our community. So it's a balance that needs to be played by all of you. And I feel bad for the individual that wrote in today for not having an opportunity to speak to council. And my recommendation just on that is we do second and third when we have no opposition to something, but an individual tried to get on tonight to Zoom and we had technical difficulties. I think to give them the opportunity, I don't think doing second and third, in my own personal opinion, would be appropriate tonight. I don't see why this has got a time crunch on it, so I don't know why you just make this go quick, right? Councillor Hurdle, back to you.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to table it. I also think that we need to be a little bit better when it comes to interpretation on the bylaw as well. I don't think this is the kind of thing that we can leave to interpretation, especially when it comes to deer fencing. I think we need to be very clear what we're talking about when.
So maybe what we'll do, if council sees it that a table is appropriate, let's go back to this and have a conversation and make sure that we really distinguish the difference between what's deer fencing and what's fencing. And it just feels right now that it's there is a little bit of a gray area in between the two, which you obviously don't want during bylaws. And again, I can appreciate the fact that what's the point of having a bylaw if everyone's going with a
Your worship.
variance?
Mr. Gopin wants you
Sure.
eventually.
But if we have a bylaw and everyone's going for a variance every time, that isn't good either, right? So I see that.
Your worship, Councillor Hurdle put a motion to table on already, so you should decide that before we flip over to Mr. Gopin.
I've got Councilor, all right, so we got a mover second. Do we want to hear from Mr. Gopin quickly, just to round out the conversation, then I'll do the vote, just out of essence if he might have some additional information. Everyone go with that? Mr. Gopin? We'll do our best to
Thank you,
hear
Your Worship. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. If people are wrapping netting around plants and stuff, then that's not considered fencing. It is when there are posts in the ground. The current bylaw is incredibly confusing and difficult to interpret, so it's currently creating lots of issues at PAC. I think, in my opinion, the way the bylaw was originally drafted, there were no public objections to that. It wouldn't create these issues that have come up now, and from my point of view, there's, I guess, not a time crunch, but I think there's no way for us to really administer fences at this point. I guess we'll have to keep doing it the way we've been doing it, but that's going to send a lot more files to PAC. So while it's a kind of minor administrative thing, it is something currently that's taking up a lot of staff in PAC's time.
Councilor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship. Before Councillor Hurdle tabled, I had put my hand up because I wanted to...
We're still good.
Okay.
Like, we haven't voted on the tabling yet, so you're
All
still
right.
good.
I represent a few people that live in my area that have come to see me, and they totally disagree with this idea of not being able to have proper, nice chain link fence in front of their houses, because they cite all kinds of examples of fallen down fences, et cetera, et cetera. So I would not be in support of this amendment. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, Council, so I've got a motion to table this. Basically, until we clarify this, it seems like it is creating a lot of variances that are creating staff time and PAC's time. So I think if we table it, I think we just need to have a lengthier conversation and revisit it. So whether we support it or not, we should make it clear. So I'll go to you. All in favor of tabling, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. We'll revisit that. Thank you, Mr. Gopin. We could hear you, but it was very difficult.
Your Worship, we will bring it back in 2 weeks, so we'll work hard to try to get the information you need in the interpretation. The only thing I have to ask Councillor Gopin, Mr. Gopin, is if we amend the bylaws as written right now, will we have to do another hearing of objections?
If you were to go back to the original way it was written, so it only applied in the historic business district for the materials, you've already had the public hearing on that. You've already had the views of PAC on that, so you wouldn't have to do it again. If it was to change substantially in, I guess, a third new way, then yes, it goes back to public hearing, and if it's something different than what PAC was involved in, it should go back to PAC as well.
Thank you for the clarity.
Thank you. Councillor Heenan. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hurdle first.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, just in terms of definition, and I might have missed this previously, but is environs, is that a clearly defined word?
It is.
Environs just includes the portions that are abutting the town plat. So it's not the entire old municipality of St. Andrews. It's just a little bit on Prince of Wales to the north side of it. I can't remember all the streets, but I think Harriet.
But it has clear definition of boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
At one point, I think there was the idea that the town plat and environs, the environs was everything that used to be the town, but that's not the case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to Councillor Heenan.
The next motion, Your Worship?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. This is reference number PCD 250404, appointment to the Planning Advisory Committee. The Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, of the Town of St. Andrews was accepting applications to be new members of the committee to fill vacancies. Staff have completed a review of the application and interviews with the interested individuals. The Planning Advisory Committee currently has 6 members, but can go up to 10 members total. In review with the PAC, staff are recommending to add 2 individuals to the PAC for a total of 8. And the motion, Your Worship, is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approve the following members to the Planning Advisory Committee: David Solier for a 2-year term and Rebecca Mergereau for a 2-year term. Your Worship, I so move.
Thank you. Seconder for that one. I've got Councillor Bennett. Discussion on this one? Okay. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. That is everybody. I was just looking up for Councillor Blanchard's hands. That's everybody. That has been carried. Thank you very much to both those individuals for volunteering. And I know Rebecca. I didn't know she was a municipal councillor in British Columbia before moving back to Charlotte County. So good to have both members raise their hand for the Planning Advisory Committee. Next motion is Councillor Heenan again.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is PCD 250305, proposed service agreement with SNBSC for heritage officer and permit processes. With the newly enhanced heritage bylaw for the Town of St. Andrews and the appointment of a heritage officer, the town has to look at a new service agreement with Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission for the heritage officer and permitting process. This was not a service included in the original planning service agreement. Please see the attached document for details. The agreement outlines, Bullet 1, fee-for-service basis, only used when a heritage permit is triggered through the application process. See Schedule A for breakdown of cost. Use of heritage officers for application processes, review and follow-up and permitting. Heritage inspection services, supporting the function of the Heritage Board. Liability and insurance coverage, termination clause. Council tabled the motion on March the 3rd, 2025, as staff wanted to review options for heritage inspections. The agreement has been updated to reflect the inspection services, which are included in the service fee costs. In addition, with the approval of agreement, a member of Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission will be appointed as the heritage inspector. The first motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the Heritage Officer Service Agreement with Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission to oversee the handling of heritage permits and heritage board processes. I so move, Your Worship.
And a seconder for that one will be Deputy Mayor Akagi. Discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor of approving this first motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye, Your Worship.
And the second motion pertaining to this?
Thank you, Your Worship. The second motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews appoints Mr. Alexander Gopin, Senior Planning of Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission, as Heritage Inspector. And I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Once again, a seconder will be Deputy Mayor Akagi, I believe. Are you getting your pen running? Or yeah? Okay. Once again, any discussion on this one? Councillor Ware?
Yes, I think this is something we should add to our list of cost allocations, buckets, as you refer to them. Something that, applies only to the town.
Thank you, Councillor Ware. It's a good point. Anyone else? Councillor Heenan.
Your Worship, I'd like to say a big thank you to Mr. Alexander Gopin for taking this on. We do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gopin. It is great to have a professional with our partner, the Regional Service Commission, that can help us navigate through these early days of such an important decision made by the community in order to have such a bylaw that's been what a lot of people would call long overdue in the community. So thank you for your leadership on that. It is appreciated. We're moving along to Deputy Mayor Akagi now. Did we vote? all in favor, please signify by saying aye. I got way ahead of myself there. Deputy Mayor Akaji, now we're going to you. The man cold can distort people quite significantly.
And thank you, Mr. Gilpin. Your services are done for planning.
Oops. Okay, FA 250423, and it's community assistance grants under $3,000. The town of St. Andrews received 10 applications to the community assistant grants for under $3,000, totaling $16,350. Council has a budget of $14,000. Please see the attached document for details and recommendations of the review committee. The review committee is recommending granting $5,650 from the Community Assistant Grant Funds and $1,000 from the Albert McCoy Fund. If the recommendations are accepted, Council will have $7,850 remaining in the budget for 2025. So the motion is this: that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews awards the following community assistance grants for 2025 at a total of $5,650 and $1,000 from the Albert McCoy Fund. 2. The Anglophone School South District Turnaround Awards of $400, Charlotte County Ground Search and Rescue for $500, New Brunswick Woodcarvers Association for $500, St. Andrews Paddle Club and Sir James Dunn Academy for $500, the Open Door Food Program Food Forest for $750, St. Andrews Arts Council of $1,000 and $1,000 from the Albert McCoy Fund, Sale St. Andrews for $2,000. And I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Akaji. Seconder will be Councillor Heenan. Discussion on this one. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. That has been carried. Next motion, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next motion is on the number of discussion on council composition. Do you want me to read what you've written? Chris Spear, Mr. Spear? Or do you want me to, did I miss one? Sorry, missed one. I missed one. Oh, I did, sorry. The next one is this one. FA 250328. Canada Community Build Fund projects for 2025. The background is this. The Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, is a stable, predictable, and indexed source of funding provided upfront to provinces and territories who, in turn, flow this funding to their communities. The funding allows local communities to make strategic investments in essential infrastructure, such as roads and bridges, public transit, drinking water and wastewater infrastructure, and recreational facilities. For the town of St. Andrews, our funding starts at $183,467 for 2024, and it grows to $198,756 in 2028. Staff are recommending that the funds be used towards various water line replacements throughout our water system. Bayside Hall and the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex. Details of the proposed projects and the official plan are attached, and staff originally proposed projects on March 17th, but due to stacking regulations, the wharf refurbishment is not an ideal project for this funding, and Council tabled the motion. It should be noted that council can amend the plan as needed in the future if other projects take priority over what is proposed. So the action of the motion is this: that the council of the Town of St. Andrews adopts the document entitled the Town of St. Andrews 5-Year Capital Investment Plan for the Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, and I so move, Your
We'll
Worship.
be looking for a seconder once again. Give that one to Councillor Hurdle. I've cut him short a couple times, I think, on those tonight. Discussion on this one.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, it's pretty fantastic that the community gets this large influx of money that we can use in different projects. And I'm all for spending the money for the community and stuff. However, our public works, when we had our training just after getting elected and before we started, we had a couple of days training here with staff, and they were very clear to describe the public works as self-funded, and that the funding for the public works only comes from the people who use it and benefit from it. And in this situation here, money that's meant for all community members is only going to be spent on people that benefit from having town water. And so that's one issue, I guess, that I've got with it, that and not only is it only used on a portion of the community, it really excludes a third of the community who doesn't access, doesn't have water delivery at home and stuff. So it's I don't see how you can only spend money that benefits one demographic of the community. Also, in our own code of conduct, all councillors are supposed to think of everybody in the community when we make our decisions and vote for different things in council. And in this situation, by approving this or asking us to vote on this, you're asking us to only think about a small or 2/3 of the demographic of the community and ignoring the 1/3. And for that, I think that would be a serious code of conflict for asking us to do that. It very much excludes a large portion of the community, and I don't think that we should be doing that. I do like the idea of spending it on something that we all benefit on, like say, the O'Neill Center here as a whole, we can all benefit from it. But when you apply it to something like the waterworks and town water and everything else, then that certainly it excludes a large portion. So that's something I think that we should seriously take in consideration before we go ahead and make this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Councillor Bennett. Point taken on a portion of the funds going towards the town water lines. I don't think anyone is at a breach of the code of conduct, though, because we do make decisions every day that only certain user groups, for example, would benefit from and other people may not. But I do see your point on it's money going to the community and only specific people do benefit from it. I do see your point on that. Councillor Heenan.
Your Worship, do I not see Bayside Hall in here?
Yes, but again, Bayside Hall is something that all of us can use, no different than the W.C. O'Neill Arena. So we're welcome to go out to the Bayside Hall to use that for the. Yeah, it's like the arena. It's like Bayside Hall is. They're from all wards, and sometimes not even from our wards. They're from other wards too that aren't even inside of our jurisdiction. But I do see the point. I will say that on the other side of this, though, is the water system. If we can't use other grants that come to the community and we're solely relying on just revenue from the users, it will be hard to sustain, because when other municipalities are doing work to their water lines, they are using a combination of grants and user fees to pay for them. But I do see the point. If you're on a well, how does that benefit me on dollars that are coming to the community, right? So over to you, Councillor Harland.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. Mr. Spear, can you, is there any way for you to give us some kind of a breakdown in terms of how the dollars would be used related to the W.C. O'Neill Arena or the Bayside Hall versus the water line replacements. Is there any way to provide even an estimate in terms, is it a 1/3, 2/3?
Well, in a discussion with council a couple of weeks ago, I had explained, and I guess had asked at that time if you were okay with us 50-50 split, 50 between items that were part of the general operating fund, which are, funded through tax revenue and other means, and then half on the utility. And so that's what I endeavored to do, is, as the mayor pointed out, the utility is underfunded, is old, needs to be repaired. And, besides, there's still lots of people that live within the old St. Andrews that don't have access to the utility too. So it's, and specifically, these projects are only affecting certain streets. So it's only, the dozen or 20 residents that live along those streets are going to be the most beneficial. Not everybody throughout the thing. It's only a small portion of the total cost to go in it too. It's minuscule compared to what the total cost of these things are. So I understand the concern of Councillor Bennett, but, I think it's an important thing to be able to spend this towards water and drinking water. And again, another way to look at it, maybe there's lots of residents in Bayside and Shamcook who obviously don't have access to the water supply. Some in Shamcook do, by the way. There's things like, economic development. There's people that work in town for access to businesses that have water and things that, we could just, I could counter-argue it a little bit. I'm not here to debate, but it's just, it's a little helpful to everybody. But right now, the plan has about a 50-50 split between the utility and general operating. Everything in the general operating side, we tried to find things that we are shared, mostly in recreation, to absorb that percentage, and Bayside Hall and the arena.
Yeah, follow up, yep.
Thank you. And so you, I'm afraid I have to declare that I fail to remember when you asked us, but obviously you asked us if we were comfortable with a 50-50 split. When did that happen?
About 2 staff meetings ago.
2 staff meetings ago?
Yeah, when I brought you forward, we were talking about how you'd like the breakdown to go. We brought recommendation. I said, the utility really needs this input to move forward.
And we all gave unanimous agreement?
Yeah, there wasn't a vote per se. I proposed it. Everybody said kind of yes, bring it forward with that proposal to council, and so that's what I've done. And I mean, it hasn't changed any since, I brought this to council a couple of weeks ago, and the same thing was there. The utility was always there. We just changed it from the wharf to these others.
Just on that, though, that note,
Thank you.
Councillor Bennett's got a follow-up as well, but all of these things within this report, before they were to go ahead, they would come back to council anyway, and we would vote on them individually on the amounts. Is that correct?
Actually, that's not correct.
Okay, so once we give this authority, it would be approved within the budget?
Yeah, so
just like
if we
approved,
follow
okay.
through with these exact projects, they'd follow through as is.
Okay.
If council decides or staff recommends maybe want to reconsider something, especially something 3-4 years in the future, would come back to you and say, we think this plan could be used in these other things, or a priority could take place anywhere, and they say, well, we'd like to redivert the funds to, a new hall in Shamcook, for instance, and then council can decide at that point. It's just the money comes automatically, but without having to submit reports, so we have to submit something to them, and this is what staff's recommendation that we thought we had council's support on, at least to get started.
Okay. Councillor Bennett?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I appreciate your recalling of the events, and you're 100% right. You did give your recommendation on where this money should go, but there was no discussion whatsoever by anybody on council. It was purely just your recommendation. We didn't get an opportunity to discuss it, and here's my opportunity to speak, and thank you. I've had an opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Appreciate that. Councillor Ware?
Yeah, I'd just make a comment. In the documents attached to the motion, there is a breakdown by category and by year as to where the money is going. And recreation's getting, my glasses aren't even strong enough to see the little numbers, 459,000, drinking water, 91,000, and onward and onward. But so the full financial analysis is there, medical.
By year
treatment,
too, yeah.
by year
Yeah.
and by category. I will take this opportunity to bring up one other issue, which I've been concerned about for almost as long as I've been on council, and that is the utility fund. I think we're sitting on an underground mess here that's all gonna come crashing up on us, I guess, or the pipes are gonna collapse or something. And it's something that council should look at doing some long-term planning on. Otherwise, the entire municipality is gonna end up paying for a lot of it, which is not right. It's supposed to be self-sustaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ware, and I concur 100%. In fact, Natalie Sturgeon, who's here with CHCO, did a wonderful article on kind of fiscal reform and really the predicament that a lot of municipalities are in New Brunswick and how far behind municipalities are on infrastructure, and the town of St. Andrews is no different. We'd like to think we are, but we're not. We're seeing some of the communities around us have lengthy delays in their water and boil water orders going multiple weeks, and when you get in the general operating, I've talked before, there's reason to be concerned, but the utility fund, if you actually look at that, is the area that needs the most attention. And I know that we've kind of converted it now to pay for what you use. I think that's the basis of trying to get more revenue, but I do think it fundamentally comes back to we do need fiscal reform to happen, because what it costs to replace these pipes in the ground and the roads that we have in our community, like we look at how much a road costs now, it's not sustainable with the current revenues that any municipality has. So I'm really excited. I know they've made some promises with no dates. I really look forward to all municipalities in New Brunswick having some type of system, because your comments are spot on. Every project we delay, we're playing with fire, as this is aging infrastructure all across this province, including St. Andrews. And you know, when you get into certain roads, because it's no different with roads, and the Ghost Road, for example, just got postponed again. We're just delaying it for projects, and it's going to catch up to us all eventually. So thank you for that. I do agree. Mr. Spear.
Just a couple of things, Your Worship. I do agree with Councillor Weir. One of the things we've put this off a little bit is to see the effects of the consumption meters, to see how that affected revenues and things. So we'll be going through our second billing this month with it, so we'll get a better idea of revenue sources. Our asset manager's got a 5 or 6 year plan that's fairly solid. I mean, short of the water towers falling down, the whole system isn't going to go down. So just not to make it sound like we're on the verge of a ticking time bomb, but that said, there's lots of pipes in the ground that are 50 plus years old that need to be addressed sooner than later, and it's a priority of staff. We're just kind of waiting to see what happened with the revenues. We'll have 2 readings after this next month on it, then we'll be able to do some planning moving forward and make recommendations. I guess I say this at budget time all the time. We're kind of on the lower end on the average cost of water for the province, and I'm not saying we need to increase rates, but I am saying that we have to look at it, and we know where the tax bills have gone in the last couple of years. It makes it very hard to do that, but at the same time, as Councillor Weir correctly pointed out, they're really supposed to be treated differently. That tax dollars aren't supposed to support the water, the utility, and so we've got to figure out how to manage this in the long run.
I will say I'm looking forward to a couple billing cycles so we can see the analysis on what the new rates do. I could just talk about Hotel Henderson, and my rates have over doubled, if not close to tripled, I believe. So, but I've got a family of 5, and again, we talked about it. That makes sense. I pay more than a senior citizen that lives on their own in this community. It's just the right thing to do, and if I want to save on my bill, I should be conserving water, right? So, but I'm really looking forward to that analysis. Mr. Spear, you think that'll be probably another billing cycle, and then we'll be able to kind of, as a council, look at where this is going?
For sure. We'll have more answers. Like I said, Andrew's very close to getting it done, so there should be a bill out by the end of this month, and then we'll start to be able to look at it. Definitely by the budget time, if not a lot earlier.
Kids might be losing their outdoor hockey rink here soon. All right, back to the issue at hand, though. Anyone else on this particular motion? All right, I will call the question. All in favor of this 5-year plan, please signify by saying aye. Or 5-year, 2-year plan, right? Five. It is 5-year. Okay. 2-year plan. Please signify by saying aye. 5-year plan. Jeez. Any opposed? Registering the 1 nay vote. Thank you very much, Council, for that. All right. The next one is not a motion. It's a discussion on council composition. There is a staff report for Mr. Spear in here. It looks consistent with what we've seen in the past, but I'll pass it over to you before we discuss.
Thank you, Worship. And I guess I'll go through it relatively quickly. I think my staff report kind of touched on the highlights, and council has seen this mostly, but it goes back to local government reform back in 2022. And in order to make it feasible at the time, the facilitator through the Minister of Local Government thought we should allow each ward to have representation. So based on that, Shamcook had roughly twice the population of Bayside, that they doubled, or they had 2 representatives from Shamcook and 1 from Bayside to add to the already existing council of St. Andrews to bring us up to 9. Now, looking forward, we do, or comparing ourselves to other municipalities, we do have a large council. There's no doubt about it, with the exception of Graham and Ann. But even St. Stephen, I think, might be similar sized or 1 smaller, and they're about double the population. As I said in my report, the cities have, about similar sized councils with 20 times the population, and so. It's just, again, the facilitator thought we should have a look at it. Staff is just bringing forward. We've had it on our radar since then to bring it forward. There'd be some savings, with potentially if 3 councillors are reduced by the next general election. And this would take place, I didn't make that specific, but it wouldn't, if council approved it, all that would happen is that when we go to the next general election in 2026, there'd be less seats at the table being elected for, so it's not going to affect anything on this council moving forward. And then there'd be some savings, and then just, it might shorten our meetings. Whether that's a good reason or a bad reason to do it, I'm not sure. But that's why staff is bringing it forward. We did have a recommendation. It's just, it kind of kept the numbers the same in a way that Shamcook would lose a councillor, and then the St. Andrews ward would lose 2 councillors, kind of keeping the original 2/3, 1/3 composition of council, but that's just a recommendation. It's, on staff, kind of one way of thinking, but there's a multiplicity of ways that we could do this. I do know in talking to Minister Kennedy that there's multiple councils also going through this exercise. None of them have made a decision, but they're going through it, and local government is interested enough that they're going to be putting out documentation over the next couple of months about the proper way to do it and forms to file with Elections New Brunswick and stuff if we follow through with it. So they're expecting that multiple jurisdictions will reduce the number of council, but again, it's not a staff recommendation. We're just bringing what the facilitator said and what we're kind of seeing. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you folks to decide how you'd like to proceed. And even the minister, it's just giving you the opportunity, not suggesting that you should. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was, I don't know if Councillor Ware was in those, but I don't think he was. I think he had a different representative from Bayside then. But I was part of, I wouldn't call it conversations, the information that was provided by the facilitator. And basically, Nicole's notes of it was, he said that all councillors in St. Andrews retain their positions, so you automatically have 6. Because of that, Shamcook Bayside, if you look at your total population, will be about 1/3 roughly of the population of the base. I have to do basically 3 councillors from Shamcook Bayside. Combinations up for debate, and what ended up happening with the population is Shamcook got 2, Bayside got 1, although there was talk about the importance of the Bayside port, warranting it. There was conversations of, is it 3 at large for that ward, or should it be specific? And what, from the comments from the people representing the wards in that meeting, is they thought that Shamcook and Bayside should have unique councillors. So that's where they got to the 6 and the 3, and they said, but you won't have a vote. And I said, I don't really need a vote. If that's the thing that works for everybody, it does. So that's kind of where we got to the 9, and the facilitator said you will be over indexed, but that's something you'll have to figure out for the next election. So we're at that time. Council, over to you. The recommendation kind of keeps that spirit of the 1/3 of the population in the new ward, Shamcook Bayside, 2/3 in the old, and that's why the 9 total councillors goes to 6 with the breakdown of even proportionate. I will note that Bayside still has 1 councillor per 355 of the population, and both the St. Andrews and Shamcook ward have 1 per over 500, but I think it's important for Bayside in these early days of reform, in my opinion, to still have a unique councillor to that particular area. But over to all of you on what you feel. So what you're looking for is direction. Is that safe to say, for a motion to come at a later time to make an official decision? Is that safe?
Well, it has to be an amendment to the bylaw, whether we create a composition of council bylaw or just amend the procedural. It's in our procedural bylaw for now. So it's got to go through 3 readings and all that stuff. And so this isn't the final say, but we kind of need to know how you want to go. It could even be that you say, well, we're open to it. Maybe we should have community consultation first. We just need direction of some kind, or you can say we don't want to consider it as also an option on the table, as I've said before, and we can go down that route, and then it stops tonight, whatever council wishes to tell us to do.
Councillor Ware.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. When you look at the population here and then look at other municipalities of similar populations, they're in the same boat. They have, very low number of residents per councillor, whether it's Fundy Shores or who it is. So, for other municipalities this size, they're facing the exact same problem. I guess my other comment on it is that going into this, I thought Shamcook and Bayside were basically the same, but they're not. There's quite a bit of difference. We have our industrial area, we have our extensive agricultural fields, so we are slightly different. Probably same mentality, but different priorities, so to speak. So, I guess the only advantage I can see to having this many councillors is staff does have the opportunity to dump some work up onto the councillors, get us to do more committee work, because we really don't do a lot of committee work. Some do, but some don't. And that I think is something that town administration could have taken better advantage of. But I don't think I was in the meetings with the facilitator too, and they just they
Told us what was going to happen.
We didn't really. We were just told what was going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Councillor Ware. Appreciate that. And yeah, you are right. We have more of a committee of a whole approach versus kind of that individual committee. And I'm sure staff would debate that it might create less work by doing committee of a whole versus individual, but we won't go there today. Council, anyone else on this proposed council composition of going from, again, 9 councillors to 6 councillors? And again, it is noteworthy as well, this proposal does save tax dollars about $42,000 as well, which is highlighted in the report. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Worship. This might be not the best question, and maybe nobody here can answer this one either, and that's fair. But it could be argued that local governance reform is sort of a sense of overreach from the provincial government. One of the concerns I have is that by reducing the size of council, we somehow reduce our influence on a provincial or possibly federal level too. I'm wondering if we'd be aware of any way that would actually happen, or if it's just more speculation on my part at this point.
I guess it's speculation, anybody, to be blunt. You don't know what's thinking. It would change election by election. But I think, from my working, especially at the provincial level, that they look at the community as a whole. So whether we had 3 people around the table or 300, it's still looking at the community and the needs of the community. And a lot of it goes on the characters of the people around the table. And all I mean by that, though, is that lobbying is a big part of it. And some areas are very good, some areas aren't very good. So, just you aim to carry more of your weight in order to network and make your voices heard for any initiatives that are coming from the provincial and federal governments, and see what you can do. Again, we're children of the province, essentially. We exist because of their legislation. Some jurisdictions is different. So it's better to keep that relationship in Fredericton. Federally, they look at us, but we're relatively small, and that relationship, they tend to go to the province anyway, and especially for a relatively small province like New Brunswick. So St. Andrews wouldn't have the same the same weight as, say, a Toronto or even a St. John Moncton. So I don't think the number of councillors will really make a difference on that. It's just a matter of that each of the representatives are active in dealing with the various ministers in order to make our needs heard.
Just want to use that as an opportunity to thank town staff for the experience they bring to those conversations and negotiations with the province and the federal government. I think having you in this community, being able to voice those discussions has always been a huge benefit to our community. So thank you.
Any other member of council?
Council, just to note, again, council composition doesn't impact granting or grant funding that we apply for, or different grants that we apply for the federal government or provincial government. That it has no bearing. They look at us as a community as a whole as well. So just to give that reassurance that as staff, we're not concerned about if we apply for funding.
It's not always, but sometimes it feels like it's not the number of councillors, it's the population that you represent that comes into play sometimes. It feels in rural areas anyway, as I'll reference the Housing Accelerator Fund that no small community in this area was a recipient of. Council, on this one then, unless anyone feels opposed, I think we start the process, but it doesn't mean that this is the be-all end-all, and you'll have plenty of time for engagement. It would require a hearing of objections, 3 readings in order to become a reality. Just getting a temperature check if everyone feels like we can start the process on that, as it will be a multi-month process.
So I don't want to be hard to get along with. Well, maybe I do. But nonetheless, what is the process? Do you want us to do up a bylaw and present it to council to start the discussion? Or
Yeah. So the bylaw, though, just to be specific, it is on the composition of council. The number, is there more pertaining?
We'll have to review it. Right now, it's built into our procedural bylaw.
Okay.
It might be my recommendation that we separate it, but the clerk and I can discuss this. At the end of the day, it's either an amendment to the procedural bylaw or create a new bylaw that takes out that portion out of the other.
Well, while we're doing that, we could talk about the abstaining from a vote, since that was up tonight too. We might as well make it part of that process, because you'll have to redo the procedural bylaw too then if you're taking something out of it, right?
So
You're omitting something from it, you still have to repeal it, right?
you would, if you, through the bylaw process, if you created another bylaw that talked about council composition, you would repeal it through that
Superseding
bylaw.
it? Okay.
Superseding it, or
But
having
just the
it
section.
removed. Just that section.
Just the
yes.
section
Yes, just
that's
the
being
section.
affected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like we'll have a full view of it before we continue anyway, council, if that makes sense to everyone. Okay, all right, thank you. We'll keep moving on. Next one is Deputy Mayor, and I'm just going to recuse myself for a second, just to breathe clear.
So FA 250426, and it's the request for proposal number TSA 2025-03 Sophia Street Land Award. The background is this. The town of St. Andrews completed a request for proposal on TSA 2025-03 for the sale of town-owned unserved land on Sophia Street. The town received 1 bid submission. Docks on the Bay Incorporated, $80,000 plus HST and applicable fees. If the town approves the bid, terms and conditions should be placed on the property at the discretion of the Chief Administrative Officer. Examples of terms and conditions include: 1, that the area remain a parking lot with green space. 2, that if the property is to be sold by the proponent, that the town has first right of refusal of purchase. So the motion is this, that the council of the town of St. Andrews accepts the bid of $80,000 plus HST and applicable fees from Docks on the Bay Incorporated for the request for proposal on TSA-2025-03 with terms and conditions to be established by the Chief Administration Officer. And I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you. A seconder. I've got Councillor Heenan. Discussion on this one? Councillor Ware? Mike.
There's, I think, a typo there. It's town-owned unserviced.
I caught that. Hope everyone would just kind of whistle and ignore, but it's unserviced, it should have been.
And I guess we had talked earlier that perhaps we were selling it for a little less than appraised value. But when one looks at the conditions we're putting on it, you can't expect to get full market price and put conditions like that on a piece of land. So we're just fully justified in selling it less than appraised values.
Fair comment. The more restrictions you put on something, technically the less the value is, right? So, fair point. I never looked at it that way. Any other member of council? We've got to move, or we got to get a seconder. No, we got the seconder. Sorry. Any other comments, though? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. That's been carried. Thank you, everyone. All right, so that will move us on now to, goes to Councillor Bennett, actually.
Thank you, Your Worship. Reference number PWPS 250315. Subject, bylaw number 25-01, a bylaw to regulate vehicle traffic in the town of St. Andrews for the third and final reading. And the background reads, the town of St. Andrews has been moving through the bylaw process for bylaw number 25-01, a bylaw to regulate vehicle traffic in the town of St. Andrews. The following process has taken place to date. Bylaw process to date. First, there was a public open house on February 5th, 2025. Next, there was a public hearing of objection on February 18th, 2025. We moved into first reading for March 3rd, 2025. Then second reading, March 17th, 2025. And third and final reading is tonight. It is recommended that the council approve the bylaw, but have it come into effect on May 1st. This will allow staff time to prepare signs, changes, and for educational material to be provided to the public. If council is comfortable with this bylaw, council can proceed to third and final reading. And the motion before us tonight reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews grants leave for third and final reading to bylaw number 25-01, a bylaw to regulate vehicle traffic in the town of St. Andrews, and that it take effect on May the 1st, 2025, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. A seconder for the motion is Councillor Harlan. Discussion. One second. Mr. Spear may have a comment.
Okay, we're just, for clarity's sake, Your Worship, there will be a section added that specifies that it doesn't come into effect till May 1st, so it's not just through the motion, but it's included in the bylaw. So as you go to court, it'll be challenged. In fact, okay, yeah. Do you think we need an amendment because it's being passed, or it's just through the motion?
No,
Okay.
it's through the motion. So, Your Worship, it'll be added right to the end above where the staff signature and the mayor's signature will be. It'll state enactment on May 1st.
But the motion already says May 1st, so we're covered
Correct,
for
so
that.
we're tying it then.
We're
that
still
way.
following council direction on
Correct.
that. Okay. All right. Looks like we can go ahead then. I did ask. There's no other comments. All in favor of going to third reading, please signify by saying aye. That is every councillor, so I will read it by title, just to keep everyone's night going. This is bylaw number 25-01.
Your Worship, just read the actual title. That's
Oh,
it.
really?
Don't
Not-
go through it. You've
not by
already
title?
you've already read it twice through full title. You just have to read it by the main title.
Sure no one wants me to do that? All right, this is a bylaw to regulate vehicular traffic in the town of Sayers. Once again, it's bylaw number 25-01. by title then. That was read the third time on the 7th day of here we are, April 2025. Cold medicine is working well for me. And that moves that one forward. Then next motion, I believe Councillor Neal with it.
Page 166, Council.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. This is PWPS 250411. The subject is RCMP collective bargaining process letter. So the background reads, the members of the RCMP formed a bargaining unit in 2019 and have been actively engaged with the Government of Canada to sign a collective agreement. Because of the length of time of discussions for the initial agreement, negotiations are now underway for the next. Despite municipalities paying close to 70% of the costs, they are not directly involved in the negotiations or provide minimal input on any changes to the agreement. Council has been requested to send the attached letter that expresses the needed role local governments must play as it directly affects our levels of service and property taxes. So the motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sends a letter to the Federal Minister of Public Safety emphasizing the need for municipalities to be more actively involved in negotiations of the National Police Federation as it relates to the provisions of RCMP services. And I will so move.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Seconder for that motion will be Councillor Bennett. Discussion? Okay, all in favor of writing that letter, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's everybody, so I'll make sure to do that. Thank you, Councillor, and I think we're going back to Councillor Bennett.
Thank you again. Reference number PWPS 250417, subject community priorities for the RCMP for 2025. The background. Every year, Council sets community priorities for the RCMP to focus on enhancing for the safety of the overall community. Council met with representatives of the RCMP on March 31st, 2025 to discuss these with Council and the community. Council should formalize the top 3 community priorities with a motion of Council. These priorities are built on community, staff, and Council feedback and RCMP statistics and recommendation. And the motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the following 2025 community priorities for the RCMP. First, crime reduction. Second, enhance road safety and focus on speeding. And third, community engagement and visibility. And I so move.
Appreciate that, Councillor Bennett. And once again, a seconder. I've got, ooh, that was close. We're going to give it to Councillor Hart. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go right off the board. Councillor Blanchard was behind you with a hand. Councillor Blanchard gets the second. That's the little excitement I can give you on a council night. Okay, we got a mover and a seconder. Discussion? It's just important to note that under these broad topics, we can have sub-targets, like, for example, crime reduction. One thing we talked about is property theft, for example. I do see that speeding, what we were talking about road safety, a subcategory would be, for example, speeding, which we know in the summer in particular has been something that is, it's only a few select individuals, but it does create a lot of, I know it calls for me, and I'm sure it calls for a lot of you as well, for example. So there will be sub-categories, and also we're looking forward to, I believe it is on the 10th when the Regional Service Commission sets their priorities for the region as well. So just a little bit of background on that. So if there's no other comments, I'll call the question. Oh, Mr. Spear.
Sorry, I'd just like to quickly thank District J, Your Worship. Just to note that it wasn't just local officers that came and had a discussion with council a couple of weeks ago. They did bring like some of the senior management staff.
Superintendent was down.
And stuff. So, you know, they do take this seriously and took their time to come down and meet with council. So we do appreciate the ongoing dialogue we are able to have with them, especially as a municipal service agreement partner.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of those priorities, please signify by saying aye. Once again, that is everybody. And believe it or not, I think we're on the last motion of the evening. Councillor Blanchard.
50411. Subject is Memorandum of Understanding for the Food Forest. At the direction of Council, staff have been working with the St. Andrews and Area Open Door Program Incorporated to create a Memorandum of Understanding for the use of 1.6 acres of land at the corner of Acadia Road and Champlain Avenue for the creation of a food forest. As part of the request, Council wanted to review the MOU prior to final approval. See the attached document for details. The St. Andrews and Area Open Door Program Incorporated would like to start work as of April 15th, 2025 on the food forest, and will meet with staff biannually to review the project and provide updates. If council is satisfied with the MOU, council can proceed with the approval. The motion that's before council is that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves a memorandum of understanding for the development of a food forest by the St. Andrews and Area Open Door Program Incorporated, and I so move.
Thank you. A seconder for that motion? Okay, Councilor Hurdle, that one was clear. Discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Thank you, council. That has been passed, and looking forward to seeing the food forest and come to life in that area. So it's good to have the green space preserved and used. All right, so nothing under new business, so we will go to question period. Would anyone in the audience have any questions pertaining to tonight's agenda? Just ask that you say your name and your address, and please come up to the podium.
Susan Sims, 175 Princess Royal Street. My question is, Councillor mentioned that the parking lot in Sophia was recommended to sell for less than the appraised price, and I was wondering what the appraised price was.
Do you have that, it's in the report, do you have that handy, Mr. Knopper?
Yep, through your worship, the appraised price was $96,000.
96? I was gonna guess 95, so I'm glad I didn't guess. $96,000, so about 16,000 less than appraised is what came in as the only bid, I believe, on the property. Thank you. Any other questions from the public?
Your worship, I have a question online.
All right, we will do one more call in the room, and then we'll switch to online if that's okay.
Yep.
Any questions? Okay, we will jump online. Thank you, Mr. Knopper.
Mr. Riley, you have the floor to council. I'll do my best so that they can hear you.
Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate it. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this council's patience. I know your time is important, and I was the writer of the letter this morning. I just was made aware of the fencing amendments, and I just wanted to pass on my appreciation to this council for tabling the amendment for a period of time so we can get more of the information to this group. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Riley, and sorry for the technical difficulties early. I'm glad that you were able to get online, and as well, council, to take a look at that in more detail. Anyone else online? Mr. Knopper, was that it?
Yeah, no one else online, your worship.
All right, so that will wrap up the question period. So we're going to jump to Councillor or Deputy Mayor's comments. Okay, and we got Councillor Hurdle.
Just a quick shout out to our very own Mr. Paul Knopper, who appeared in a very nice article about our town recently. Just wanted to say thank you very much for shining such a wonderful light on us recently. So, good article.
And I think he almost got away with this. I was going to get at my comment, but that's a good lead to happy birthday, Mr. Knopper. What a great way to celebrate turning 25 with all of us. Yeah.
Thank you, council.
Maybe next year the Chiefs will get it done to celebrate your year.
Hopefully.
Any other member of council? Deputy Mayor, you good?
I'm good. I just want to say, please keep those bags coming in. The food banks really need them. I think it was 85 with your group that you gave me and a few others. I took 85 bags over, and they said they could use more. So I'm just passing that along. You have been collecting, so.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will have some to donate for you. Thank you for the reminder. I'm one of those ones that has to buy them almost every time. I'm one of them. All right. So that wraps up councilors and Deputy Mayor. Myself, I'm good this evening, so I'll be looking to go to closed session as per
The Local Governance Act, Section 68(1)J, labor and employment matters, including the negotiations of collective agreements.
Thank you very much. Could I have a mover to go to closed session? I've got Councillor Heenan, seconded by Councillor Neal. All in favor of going to closed session? Thank you. We'll give a moment for the media to shut down and obviously for the people in the public. So thank you everyone for attending.